What if I told you that one of our most powerful tools for protecting coastlines and cleaning water isn't made of concrete or steel, but is actually alive? Meet the humble oyster, an unassuming mollusk that's revolutionizing how we think about coastal infrastructure. Right now, coastal cities around the world are facing a massive crisis. Rising sea levels and increasingly powerful storms are battering shorelines with unprecedented force. Traditional solutions like concrete seawalls and stone barriers cost billions of dollars to build and maintain. But here's the fascinating part. Nature has been solving this exact problem for millions of years, and we're only now catching on. Enter oyster reefs, the living, breathing alternative to traditional coastal infrastructure. These remarkable structures are built by oysters themselves as they grow and multiply, cementing together to form massive underwater barriers. But unlike concrete walls that simply block waves, oyster reefs work with nature to dissipate wave energy, filter water, and create thriving ecosystems all at once. Let's talk about how these incredible creatures actually protect our coasts. When waves approach an oyster reef, something remarkable happens. The rough, irregular surface of the reef breaks up wave energy, reducing its force by up to 70% before it reaches the shore. It's like nature's own shock absorber. The complex three-dimensional structure of the reef creates friction and turbulence that transforms destructive waves into gentle ripples. But wave protection is just the beginning. A single adult oyster can filter up to 50 gallons of water every single day. That's enough to fill a bathtub. Now, imagine millions of oysters working together in a reef system. They're essentially acting as a massive, self-maintaining water treatment plant, removing excess nutrients, sediments, and pollutants from coastal waters. This filtration capacity addresses one of the most pressing problems facing coastal ecosystems today: nutrient pollution. When fertilizers from farms and lawns wash into waterways, they trigger massive algae blooms that deplete oxygen and create dead zones where nothing can survive. Oysters intercept these nutrients before they cause harm, literally eating the problem away. The history of oyster reefs makes this story even more compelling. Just 200 years ago, oyster reefs were so abundant along coastlines that they posed navigation hazards to ships. These reefs stretched for miles, creating natural barriers that protected shorelines and supported incredible biodiversity. Historical records suggest that oyster populations were 500 times larger than they are today. But overharvesting, pollution, and habitat destruction decimated these populations. By the 20th century, we'd lost approximately 85% of the world's oyster reefs. They're now considered one of the most endangered marine habitats on Earth. As the reefs disappeared, so did their protective benefits, leaving coastlines vulnerable and water quality declining. Here's where the revolution begins. Scientists and engineers are now deliberately rebuilding oyster reefs as a form of green infrastructure. This approach, sometimes called oystertecture, combines ecological restoration with coastal engineering. Instead of fighting nature with concrete, we're working with natural processes to achieve our goals. The results are stunning. In areas where oyster reefs have been restored, shoreline erosion has decreased dramatically. Studies show that restored reefs can reduce shoreline loss by up to 50% compared to unprotected areas. The reefs grow stronger over time as more oysters settle and build upon the existing structure, creating a self-reinforcing system. The economic benefits are equally impressive. Traditional seawalls can cost up to $50,000 per meter to construct and require constant maintenance. Oyster reefs, once established, cost a fraction of that amount and maintain themselves. The oysters reproduce, repair damage naturally, and adapt to changing conditions without human intervention. But the advantages extend far beyond cost savings. Oyster reefs create habitat for hundreds of other species. Fish, crabs, and other marine life use the reefs for shelter, feeding, and breeding. This biodiversity boost supports commercial and recreational fisheries, providing additional economic value to coastal communities. The water filtration capacity of restored reefs produces measurable improvements in water quality. In the Chesapeake Bay, restoration projects have shown that oyster reefs can significantly reduce nitrogen levels and improve water clarity. Clearer water means more sunlight reaches underwater grasses, which further stabilizes sediments and supports more marine life. One particularly fascinating aspect of oystertecture is how it adapts to sea level rise. Unlike fixed concrete structures that become less effective as water levels change, living reefs can grow vertically, keeping pace with rising seas. Oysters naturally build upward when conditions allow, creating a dynamic infrastructure that responds to environmental changes. The concept illustrates a broader shift in how we approach infrastructure challenges. Ecosystem services, the benefits that natural systems provide can often replace or supplement traditional engineering solutions. This biomimicry approach recognizes that nature has already solved many of the problems we face, often more elegantly and sustainably than our industrial solutions. Other examples of this thinking include using wetlands for flood control, forests for water purification, and green roofs for stormwater management. But oyster reefs represent one of the most dramatic demonstrations of how ecosystem services can directly replace conventional infrastructure. Implementing oyster texture isn't without challenges. Reefs need the right conditions to thrive, including appropriate salinity, temperature, and water quality. Site selection requires careful planning and ecological assessment. Initial establishment can be tricky, often requiring human-made structures to provide substrate for young oysters to settle on. Despite these challenges, oyster restoration projects are expanding rapidly. Cities from New York to Singapore are investing in oyster texture as part of their coastal resilience strategies. These projects often involve partnerships between scientists, engineers, community groups, and government agencies, creating a collaborative approach to environmental problem solving. The success of oyster texture is inspiring similar approaches with other reef-building organisms. Coral reefs, mussel beds, and other biological structures are being studied and restored for their infrastructure value. This growing movement represents a fundamental reimagining of our relationship with nature, from domination to collaboration. Here's a mind-blowing fact. If we restored oyster populations to just 10% of their historical levels, the combined filtration capacity would be equivalent to building hundreds of water treatment plants. That's the power of working with nature instead of against it. So next time you see an oyster, remember you're looking at a master engineer, water purifier, and coastal guardian, all rolled into one remarkable shell. These humble creatures are teaching us that sometimes the best technology isn't something we invent, but something we restore. Could the future of sustainable infrastructure be hiding in plain sight, waiting in the natural systems we've overlooked? What other solutions might nature be offering if we're willing to listen and learn?